I have a comment or two, and it basically is a continuation from Father Dan. We're all here, part of the Orthodox faithful, and I came to get counsel, to learn, just like everybody, to talk about our Orthodoxy. I love talking about our Orthodoxy. I love trying to make disciples of all nations. Sometimes it's difficult. And when I mean this, I love all of our brethren, and nothing against the Roman Catholic, the evangelicals, non-denominational, Presbyterian, whatever it may be, but in my many travels, I always talk to people about Orthodoxy. And some of the first things they say is, your service is too long. What time does it start? And I say, okay, well, Orthros is 9 o'clock, and by 10, well, it's over by 10. That's great. No, that's kind of when it starts. It goes to like 12. Well, that's like 3 hours. That's just madness. I'm Roman Catholic, and they got this down to like almost 45 minutes. You put on an egg timer in 45 minutes, ding, you're done. So that's one thing. They talk about the length. And then a lot of evangelicals, they tell me, well, I've seen some of your videos and this and that, where's the guitars and the drums and the singers and the harmonicas and the banjos and the this and the that and the other? And I'm like, well, we're going for divine liturgy. No offense, I'm not here to go see a rock concert. This isn't Led Zeppelin, Madison Square Garden, one night only. So I try to tell them about the divine liturgy, about how it's so pure, how it's, in the succession of the apostles. And the complaints that I get is it's too long, and we just don't have the services. And I think that people involved in Orthodoxy go to the services because it's pure and it's in the Lord's image. But I get complaints, well, where's your bouncy houses? Where's the clowns and the balloons? Where's the this and the that, the rah? And I say, look, if you want to come to St. Matthew's, I'm only speaking for us, it's about the liturgy. It's about the communion. It's about the community. It's about Christ. I don't have bouncy houses. If you want afterwards, I'll entertain your children. I'll tell them jokes. I'll make balloons.
But what we were talking about before, it's a context. If people don't know that, that's all they know. That's what they're going to do. We have to be conscious of that, so you have to bring them up to speed, kind of thing.
I feel they almost shame me because we don't have those things, and then it's the same fine folks that say they claim this sola scriptura thing, and then I say to them, well, where does it say in the Bible about having bouncy houses and paying faces and all this? I'm against the bouncy houses thing because a lot of churches are luring people in, not with the service, but with the extras.
It's more about, it's about priorities. What are we there for? We can be there for a whole number of different things, but it has to be Christ, whatever it is. We can be there for liturgy and miss the point, right? It has to be about Christ. And our witness of it is supposed to be an expression of that. But even we have to be careful about being triumphalistic, or we have all this stuff. Well, if we have it, we're more accountable for it. That in the end, he's going to say, okay, I gave you all this stuff. What did you do with it? Well, we had nice liturgy in your name. We did good presentations in your name. You could say, not great. What happened with it? So it's a balance. And I think the important thing is we give an authentic witness to what is true. And if someone else doesn't have that, we try to encourage them. But, they might not be that place yet. So you have to be, like St. Cyril once said, be compassionate and merciful and kind of, gentle with correcting or sharing with them.
Don't feel shame.
Right. Be who you are. Be that will.
Any explanation how we can, when they complain, people that aren't Orthodox, that we want to invite them in our parishes about the time?
No.
To me, I tell people the time stands still. I mean, the time, whether it's 40 minutes.
When I was Elijah's age, I was it was back in the day when you could sit in the armrest in the front seat, right? So I'm driving there, and my grandparents are driving to church, and my grandfather's late for church, and he's like, oh, what time is church? We're running late. Ta-da. My grandma said, oh, it's 6 o'clock. Oh, it's 5 or 6. And I said, now, Gigi, liturgy starts when the priest says, blessed is the kingdom. That's when it starts. The idea is that when the priest says, blessed is the kingdom, we enter into eternity. That's why you can talk about the second coming in past tense. We're in that reality. So we tell them, there's no time, But the thing is, if you want to go on a Sunday morning to a football game, you'll be there for 4 hours outside.
Good point.
It's about priorities.
I talk to people who say they're Christians, and they say, well, 2 or 3 hours is too long. And I said, hold on. We're in the NBA Finals now. Well, now the championship happened and went. So for 3 months, you can 3-4 nights a week watch games for 3-4 hours a night, but you can't go to a divine liturgy for 2-3 hours, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
I think the bottom line is priorities.
It all comes down to what Father Dimitri says a lot. I think a lot of people are trying to have the attitude, well, I'm trying to put Christ in my life, and what we really need to do is put our lives in Christ.
Absolutely.
I have a question kind of about what you guys are talking about, and it's kind of just trying to formulate the actual question. But I think I've heard, you just talked about like walk into eternity. And I think that even a lot of Orthodox people coming to church don't have that attitude of, or knowledge even, of I'm walking into a sacred space here, I'm walking
Right.
into the kingdom of heaven.
That's our job.
And how do you,
That's our job to express that. Just like that's why they call us Father. Again, in my house, I educate my kids on what we need to do. I set the tone. This is what you're going to do. Here's your job. Here's your chore. Here's why we do this. Here's why we're going on vacation this day. Here's why you're not going to karate tonight because this. Explain them. Here's the deal. That's our job to encourage. But
how do you explain it to a non-Orthodox of like, this is a mystical experience? It's
Well,
not
first-
just like going to a building and you step in and like, we're
Well, the first thing you do is you say, come and see, right? Because a lot of times when I see people that come for the first time, even in our space, which, from the outside you're like, oh, you're my church. When you get in and see it, they're just taken aback because it stops being an office space and you're drawn into this thing. And then once that happens, then you can, talk to them about it. But you can't, see, Orthodoxy sometimes is like taking a drink of water from an open fire hydrant. Like just so much stuff is coming at you once you can't even, so where do you start? So if somebody is used to just going to a church for an hour and you start talking about 4-hour liturgies, stop, That's not what you lead in with. You lead in with, do you believe that Christ is risen from the dead, trampling the death by death? Well, yeah, okay, start there. There's our foundation. Don't worry about the length of the service. Just get them to the church. They'll figure it out themselves. But, these things will naturally take over. And if they cultivate that love of Christ, then they forget about time. Right? It's not about, I'm throwing the clock. Because ultimately, Christ isn't on the clock. He's outside a clock. So, but it goes back to priorities. I'm not saying for other people. I'm talking about us, me as the priest of my parish. Priorities. What is my priority? And that's hard. And that's what our constant struggle is. Do we put Him first and foremost in our lives? Do we? And if we don't, why not? That's the question we have to ask ourselves over and over and over. Yes.
Father, I like what Father Thomas Hopko used to say, that the book of Acts is kind of the model of how to present Christianity, and that it's not a theological discussion as much as it's just a history of the church.
Well, that's every time they get up there. Stephen, he does the longest epistle of the whole year on St. Stephen's Day. He just tells the whole story, from beginning to end. And then, Peter, all they're doing is saying, this Jesus who you killed, he is now risen from the dead. Like, that's the story we got to tell people. The rest of the stuff, it comes.
Right.
But that's what we lead with. If we're not leading with that, liturgy and throw up, it has to start with Him. He is the foundation for all of it. And if He's not, forget it. So that's where we start. But we have to know that story. And if we don't know that story, don't worry about the rest of it because it's going to be useless. Because that has to fit into the whole dynamic.
One story. I travel every so often overseas. I've been to Russia many times, and Poland, and heard there was a complaint given to the bishops in Moscow. And the complaint was, what they were talking about was the young people want shorter services. And here, the last year, the bishops said we did shorten the service from 4 hours to 3 hours, and they still complain.